back in September. So anyway, tonight we'll get right to it. I don't have a whole lot to say unless Barbara has something to say or any other ex-com members or committees. Tonight, just like last year, go ahead, Dick. What's that? Birthday, yes. All right. Well, I was just going to say that. I was going to say, just like last year, we had the program meeting with Agnes and Dana just before we were going to do restorative work at the Sedge Meadow over in Prospect Heights. Of course, Dr. Agnes Wojnarski was co-founder of the Prospect Heights Natural Resources Center in 2014 as a medical doctor, and Dana Severson serves as the administrator, Chicago Wilderness and Burn Crew certified. So April 26th, we're getting together, and if you want more information, and also I have QR codes for the Prospect Heights Natural Resources Center main page, and also you can read about the actual Sedge Meadow and where it is too. So I'll hold those up, like later on, and you can go to the page, just by using your camera. So that's April 26th. What do we start? Registration is at 8 o'clock to 9, and then there's a lunch around noon. So parking. We have flyers too. If you're interested in a flyer, I can put links in the chat, or do a QR code here at Spring Valley, and then we'll have some entertainment too. And Barbara has something to add that I forgot.
Now, I just want to mention that we made 2 endorsements for village trustee in Arlington Heights, and both of our endorsed candidates won. So yay!
That's pretty cool. In these times, that's cool. Let's give another applause. All right. Well, let's get right to it. I've introduced this. If there's anything else I need to say about Earth Day, if you need more information, we're available, and it's going to be all over, at our web page and all that stuff. So, and social media too. Kadri maybe put some social media information in the chat. So anyway, without further ado, I don't know who's going to go first speaking here.
Yeah, we're just going to start right first, right here.
Oh, okay. So that's the other thing. Looks like everybody can see. Let me see. Because I think I'm a regular guy on my phone. Oh, no, I'm a co-host, but I see it. And so I'm assuming everybody can see this PowerPoint. If you can't, please raise the issue up in the chat. Thank you.
You're going to get there. Right here.
Okay. I believe you were ready.
Right? I'm going to have to stand right here to advance the slide. So you may not be able to see the screen.
You may move your chair a little bit.
You know, I turn off the sound.
Thank you for having us. My name is Dana Severson.
Speakers here that are echoing. I think that's okay.
All right. Give you
habitat in our region. So we all know about over-farming, overuse of chemicals, urban sprawl, road construction, and landscaping with non-native plants are all problems that cause declines in habitat for our pollinators, our birds, reptiles, and amphibians.
It's the speakers we have set up there next to, it's those two speakers up there.
Right, this is connected to that, so that means that
We
all
turn
the
it
Zoom
over
should,
to
it should be fine, so turn off your.
I can turn up the sound on this.
Yes, you wanna like completely get rid of that.
This one is muted.
You wanna completely disconnect the audio. It's not, muting it isn't good enough. Why that is, I don't know.
Or we can ignore it, right?
I suppose. The key is can anybody hear us? They should be able to hear us now. Yeah, they hear us now. Because we're going through that thing. That's where the microphone is, right there. And all the Zoom activity is going through that thing and coming out those speakers. What we hear is the feedback, echo feedback from your computer.
It's not from my computer, it's a delay on the computers. Because my computer is muted.
Right, but you have to disconnect the audio. Muting isn't good enough.
I have muted the speakers and I have muted the microphone.
Okay. Go on. Go to the next slide.
Yeah,
Okay, now. We have a lot of slides.
Okay.
Okay, go on. Right, so invasive plants. What are the problems with invasive plants are that they come from somewhere else. And as such, they have not evolved here as they have maybe back home. So back home, like let's say buckthorn came from England, it would have its natural predators, its natural diseases back there that would sort of keep it in check. When things that come from other areas come here, they don't have their natural predators, the natural insects, the fungus, the viruses, everything that may be able to keep it in check. It also doesn't have all the things that feed and depend on it as well. So what ends up happening is they adapt to their new home and then they get stronger. They actually develop characteristics to make them acquire these invasive properties. And then they do not support wildlife. So soon all the wildlife, insects, birds, and amphibians leave. So like you have this monoculture of loosestrife, where you saw the teasel, or this water chestnut. These are all examples of the lack of biodiversity. Instead of having 150 or 200 different species of beautiful native plants that support hundreds and thousands of pollinators and birds and wildlife, you have one monoculture of something that things can't use because they haven't evolved alongside of them. Buckthorn, at least it is in Prospect Heights. In other areas, maybe it's honeysuckle. There we go, honeysuckle. And definitely in Prospect Heights is buckthorn. And as it has evolved, it actually has ways to protect itself and to help spread itself. So Rhamnus cathartica is the botanical name, which means it's actually a cathartic. So it induces diarrhea in birds. So the birds will eat the berries and then poop the buckthorn berries out in large, copious amounts.
And if you've ever wondered, if you've ever been out doing restoration work and you notice that we've got a tree here and there's a buckthorn that looks like it's growing right out of the tree, right next to it, as tight as it can possibly be, it's because the bird was sitting in that tree and pooped straight down. And that's how you end up with that.
But it also secretes chemicals into the soil, not allowing other things to grow. And not allowing other things to live. So it secretes a chemical called emodin, which has a 50% mortality on amphibian embryos. So wherever you have buckthorn, especially around wetlands, you tend to see less frogs and toads. The other thing is it leaps out really early. Like right now, the buckthorn is leaping out. So it's really out competing everything and shading everything because our native trees don't leap out for at least a few more weeks. You want to talk about this slough?
Yeah, so this is Prospect Heights. This is the slough. Over on the left in 2014, this is what it looked like. So if you were standing on that road, you could not see that there was water inside of that slough. That was 45 feet deep. It went completely ringed around the entire wetland. It took us 2 years of working every other Sunday, year round, with a full crew of the volunteers, to get rid of it. And so you can see after how it's, opened up, and there's the same pictures, down below too. And when we first started, we were doing everything with hand loppers. We were putting these chainsaws because of the city administrator we had. So we got a new city administrator and said, do it. So we chainsawed and went very quickly from there. Phragmites, on the other hand, is really nasty plant. We recently gave a talk in Indiana and in Maryville, Indiana, and from the state line in Illinois going all the way to Maryville in Indiana, as far as you can see was Phragmites. Acres and acres and acres and acres of Phragmites.
Wetlands completely decimated, completely taken over.
It spreads through rhizomes. There's a million seed heads in there.
We have a common name. Common reed. Phragmites, the common reed. So this is what you see all along the expressway. Driving along, it's just like miles of it. The big tall plumes.
You also see it at like the mall at Rangers Mall in the detention areas where you drive into Home Depot. It's filled with it. They think it's like a decorative grass or something.
That's what I was wondering, if people intentionally planted thinking it's pretty.
Uh,
We have some grasses that we're worried about, we don't think it's this one.
So highly invasive.
Yeah, we've had people ask us, what's that pretty grass? There's a lot of invasives that are pretty, like purple blue stripe. People I know have planted
James
purple
Rocket.
blue stripe. James Rocket.
Yeah.
Yes.
Silver feather and Carl Forster.
Excuse me?
Silver feather grass and Carl Forster grass.
Silver feather grass. Well, it's a non-native grass, so you'd be better off doing something like Indian grass. It is a non-native grass, so it doesn't support the wildlife. So, you know, like native grasses, there's certain subspecies of butterflies called skippers that feed on native grasses, specifically native grasses. They don't feed on turf grass, they don't feed on non-native grasses. So wouldn't you rather have a nice little bunch of Indian grass that supports all of these skippers than something that doesn't?
You know, the first time you hear something, you go, I'm not listening. And then someone else says it, and you go, oh, maybe I should listen.
Carl Forster, they don't.
I'm not sure Carl Forster is
By
one of
your Portillo's, they only get about 3.5. 4 feet.
I don't think so. And a lot of the cultivated varieties of those things that are sold in the nursery trade, sometimes are sterile and they're basically genetically altered. And
So stick with the, what'd you say?
stick with the
Indian
native grasses.
grass, like
Big blue stem, Indian grass, prairie dropseed, switchgrass is beautiful. Switchgrass, that's a good one. It's tall.
Or grass.
Cordgrass is very nice too. There's a lot of really nice native grasses. Short, tall, medium, woodland, prairie, wetland. Okay. And we'll go on and we'll talk a little bit about that too.
I really don't feel that. I didn't want to get it.
Okay, right, cattails. So cattails are actually really important for the ecosystem, and we have native cattails. However, they have been replaced because of the invasive cattails. The cattails that have come from somewhere else now hybridize with our native cattails, creating an invasive cattail that forms a monoculture in our wetlands. So you will see just wetlands, 100% of cattails. And once again, that limits the biodiversity. So instead of having all of these native plants, all you have is cattails. And even though muskrats depend on cattails, and there are other things that depend on cattails, it's just become a very big problem.
And you'll see that some are land anchored and some float as mats. And those things can actually break off and start floating around as well. Really, just a million ways to get rid of it, but none of them are very easy.
So what are 2 ways to get rid of it?
What he's doing there is brush cutting and then go back and herbicide in it. We 2 years ago, we did a drone.
You can actually, you can drown cattails. So if there's a capability of being able to affect the water level of a certain wetland, being able to decrease or increase the level of the water, you can actually drown cattails.
Or you can cut it below the level of the water.
Or you can cut it before the level of the water.
The stems are like big tubes, like drinking straws, but it's fibrous in there that will pass for the water and nutrients to get up and down. So if you cut it below there, it fills up with water and effectively drowns the plant.
Teasel. Oh. Teasel. So you'll see this beautiful, beautiful natural area just completely taken over by teasel, and you just watch it happen almost overnight. So it's also an invasive species, and this spreads mostly by seeds. So it just produces thousands of seeds that it just sort of ejects out. So you have one teasel plant, the next year you have thousands of them, and the year after that it's just a field of teasel. This is actually very, you can take care of this one pretty easily as long as you stay on top of it, because it is a biennial. So its life cycle is over 2 years. So the very first year it has a basal rosette, like on the bottom right-hand corner. That's what it lives like in the first year. And it doesn't shoot up a flowering stalk until the second year. So in the second year, if you eliminate that flowering stalk before it goes to seed, that's it, done. That was its second year, it's over for that plant. You don't have to apply herbicide, you don't have to do anything. However, if you do it at the wrong time of the season, it can come back and do another flower head. And sometimes it'll create like 10 little flower heads. So you have to sort of stay on track of it, but it's something that can be easily managed just by mechanical control.
We've also wrapped them in black plastic in the middle of the summer and stack them in a big pile, and then it's cooked. So
After we cut it.
After we cut it.
Canada distal, that's another one. So it is actually not from Canada. It's Eurasia or Europe. It can form very dense colonies. It's very difficult to get rid of, and it spreads by rhizomes underground. So it's like one big happily family where you see, I always tell my interns, like, if you see one of them, there's always another one, or 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. There's never just one. There's always another rosette, because they colonize and then they spread underground. So can be difficult to eradicate. Purple loosestrife. One thing about purple loosestrife is that there is a beetle that feeds on purple loosestrife that's been introduced. It's been tested and now has been introduced in certain areas. You need an EPA permit. There's a lot of population in like Lake County. There's actually a population by us as well of the loosestrife beetle. So it is a beetle that feeds on purple loosestrife and does not feed on the native loosestrife. However, recently I've heard from others that it sometimes does feed on the native loosestrife, which I hope that's not true.
How does the native loosestrifes look different than the bad?
So there's several native loosestrifes. There's a yellow fen loosestrife. There's several different types of loosestrife, but it's much more daintier and shorter, both of those, and it really plays nice with everybody else. So like when you see one, you see 50 other plants and 50 other things around it. When you see this plant, it's just, that's basically all you see.
That's a native non-cultivar.
This is an invasive.
Invasive.
Yeah. The other one is a native non-cultivar. Yeah, a naturally occurring loosestrife.
For the other on the label,
Yes, if they even sell them.
Citizens for Conservation of Barrington is having an annual plant sale. That would be a really good place to go pick up a lot of plants.
As is Spring Valley, 2025 native plant sale pre-order. Shop now until Friday, April 25th.
There you go.
So those are places, actually those are really great places to get them, because it's very hard to find it, like Lurvy's, Home Depot, and sometimes, because I've been there too looking for natives, they have cultivars and big varieties. You're just not sure what you're getting. So.
Or they have neonics on them.
Oh, right, or they have, right. So there's all sorts of problems. We're not there yet. I wish we were. But these plant sales are a really great source. Yeah, CFC or Spring Valley and all sorts of. Or your local conservation group, ask for seeds, go volunteer. And that's how I started too. So. Read here.
Yeah. So Agnes, like the loosestrife beetle that you were talking about, that's a non-native that was introduced here in order to try to control the purple loosestrife,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. Right.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it was supposed to be a really good thing, but now we're not so sure anymore because it wasn't supposed to attack the native loosestrife. And now apparently it's starting to, or has been. Maybe it wasn't the best idea.
IDNR did do a lot of testing before deciding that it would be okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
For sure, they tested it
Years.
against
Yeah, they spent a long time trying to be sure that it wouldn't attack native loosestripes and it wouldn't attack any threatened or endangered plant species in Illinois.
But yeah. So reed canary grass, this is another one. This is a grass that completely takes over, especially in wetlands. This is what the slough had. So the area that we manage, in certain areas, like over here, you see on the top left-hand corner, that is what the slough looked like before we started managing it. 100% reed canary. And that's what that monoculture means. It just outcompeted everything. There's no other plant except that plant. And it's a non-native, so nothing feeds on it. There's no butterflies, there's no insects, there's nothing that depends on it. It doesn't have its natural predators, its natural diseases. Once we started managing it on the upper right-hand corner, now we have 60 different species of native plants. And so milkweeds and native grasses, and now there's many, many different insects and pollinators. A lot of things came up on its own. So a lot of things just waited in that seed bank. Plants will, and seeds, and especially in wetlands because of the anaerobic conditions in wetlands, those seeds can be viable for 100 years in the soil. So given that opportunity, they come up, and there it is. We've had Michigan lilies come up in certain areas. So plants, right. Yeah, tufted loosestrife, which is a nice teasel. So at the slough, that was at the slough before and after. And so once again, what happens when invasives take over? The loss of biodiversity forms monocultures, meaning there's only that, loss of habitat, and then also because of loss of habitat, the loss of insects, pollinators, birds, and wildlife. And really, they have no value to the ecosystem and actually harm the ecosystem. Native plants are the ones that we want to aim for because those are the plants that have been here for thousands of years. Those are the plants that the insects evolved with. And we can go on to the next one, I think is where we talk about the monarch and the milkweed. That's a really classic example. So monarch caterpillars can only feed on milkweed plants only. There's several species of milkweed plants, but it's only Asclepias, it's only the milkweeds that they can feed on. If you think of that and you extrapolate to maybe hundreds of different species of insects or hundreds of species of even butterflies and moths, not everybody's a specialist like monarchs. Not everybody can only feed on milkweed or can only feed on, but a lot of them do. Like swallowtails can only feed on things in the parsley family and the carrot family.
I have Cinderella milkweed in my yard. I have never seen monarch.
Do you know what the botanical name for that is? Cinderella milkweed?
Pink and it's pretty.
Is it a native?
I think it's a cultivar of swamp.
Oh, a cultivar of swamp milkweed. Well, maybe the normal variety would be. I would. I mean, swamp milkweed's so much better. Yeah. I have a lot of caterpillars on our milkweeds. Yeah. Right. But so just like that, if you think about the hundreds and thousands of different species of insects that have depended on those native plants for thousands of years, how important it is for those insects. And they put in here that we monitor the wildlife, the insects, the birds, and the amphibians to tell us how healthy the habitat is. Yes, we do. We kind of went through this, but native species are those that occur in a particular region. They're generally recognized as those occurring on the continent prior to European settlement. There's an example of blue vervain of the slough. It's a native. Yeah, I really like this. So yeah, go back to that oak. So just as an example, talking about specifically, this is a study that was done by Doug Tallamy, if anybody knows who that is. He wrote a really good book. So he studied different species of trees. And so he studies them in relationship to Lepidoptera, which are moth and butterfly caterpillars. So he looked to see which trees supported which species and how many species of Lepidoptera, because all the caterpillars feed on different things. And he found that oaks support 532 species of Lepidoptera. I don't know which quercus, which specific oak, but the oak genus, I think he's talking about the whole family. So like everything in the quercus. So all oaks in general, he didn't specify which ones, support 532. Number 2, I think, is prunus, which is everything in the plum, the chokecherry, and all of those. But if you look at tree of heaven, 6. Because that's not from here, it's also an invasive. 6 species, that's huge. Norway maple, I know from that list, supports 2, and they're probably not native. So if you think about the value of having an oak tree versus a Norway maple, just think about the value to the wildlife and what really depends on it. I mean, I almost think of those trees, those non-native trees, as almost like just I don't know, like the value is unbelievable. And then if you think about, so like why do we care about all those caterpillars? Is it on the next slide? Oh no, here's an example of the numbers. So yeah, prunus. Prunus is the next one. So everything choke cherry, black cherry, cherry trees, 456 species. And not all of them support, you know, the specifically moth and butterfly caterpillars, but that's the list. And go to the next slide, maybe. Oh, this is just nice. These are types of caterpillars. Okay, so this is a looper caterpillar that actually uses the petals of the flowers to camouflage themselves. Just amazing. Once you start to appreciate native plants, you just see all of these wonderful insects, like me, like insects I've never seen before. All of a sudden, right there. So many interesting things. The natives. Look at that. I mean, that on the bottom, you see that it looks like a stick. He's actually eating the leaf. It's a caterpillar. The fact that that caterpillar can look identical to the twig, even the same size, the same color, the amount of evolution and for that to be able to happen is just absolutely amazing. Amazing. So we really need to support these species that depend on our native plants. So I talked a little bit about the host plants. So there's a whole list of the caterpillars and which species and which families they depend on. Now swallowtails are interesting because they can feed on anything in the parsley family, but it includes non-native things too. So they can feed on Queen Anne's lace, they can feed on like dill and parsley in our garden, fennel, things like that, which is okay. But other things depend only on natives. Here's like the take home, and this is also a take home from Talmy. Why do we need so many caterpillars? And I've heard the number 5,000 thrown out. I don't know where the 7,500, but I don't think it matters. 5,000 or 7,500. If that's how many caterpillars it takes to raise a single clutch of chickadees, where are they going to get the caterpillars? They're not going to get it from the turfgrass. They're not going to get it from the invasive patch of loosestrife. They're not going to get it from a Norway maple. Yeah, and going back to the oak, one of the reasons for that is that historically 60% of all the trees in Illinois used to be oak trees. So that also correlates very strongly with why that tree is so important too, specifically to its family. But so you notice now, if you have an area with just a lot of native plants and you eliminate as many of the invasive species, you'll see so many more birds because now they have a place to rear their young, they have a place for a food source. So that's another reason it's very important.
We planted a swamp oak last year, and this is like, we're on a journey here, we're learning things as we go, but I can't guarantee that it's a non-cultivar. So did we waste $500 on a Lurvy plant lot swamp oak?
Well, the question is that they had bought a swamp oak from a garden center, and it might be a cultivar, and maybe did they waste the time and the energy on something that possibly could be a cultivar? I guess the best way to find out is to identify it botanically to see what it is. So you can ask someone who really knows their plants or their trees, or even go on something like Facebook Botany. There's experts on there that can tell you. They'll want to see the twig, the leaf. You know, there's things that help to identify trees, and you can really see if it's a true to its species, or that it is probably a cultivar. So I wouldn't jump to any conclusions unless you have a tag that says it is. I don't know.
But if it's a cultivar, that limits its usefulness to the
I would have to, just my own opinion, I would say that a cultivar is better than a non-native or than an invasive. So I'd rather have a cultivated variety of something than something. Yeah. Yeah. So I think I would keep it. You know, I'm sure that there's a value.
Call them and ask them if they sell too.
Oh, that's a good idea to call them.
Common enough, isn't popular enough that they're gonna sell 5 different kinds. They're probably gonna sell 1 or 2.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a lot of cultivated swamp. Okay, here's another example of those caterpillars. Right Right, so native plants are definitely part of the evolutionary food web. You see the monarch. And if you go back to that, I think one of them was, oh, like for instance, that turtle head on the bottom, only certain bees can pollinate that. Only the really strong ones can. Oh, you do? Okay. All right. Moving along then. So when we started restoration around the slough, where there was a lot of invasives, we had bird walks. We still have bird walks twice in the spring and twice in the fall. And as we did those with the Bird Conservation Network. They would keep a running tally of all of the birds that we saw. We started off with 50 species. Now we have 102. I mean, this is absolutely, and including the bald eagle. We just had a picture sent yesterday of 2 bald eagles, probably a nesting pair right there. I mean, it's just been so unbelievable. And to think of how valuable and how important it was to take away those invasive species. Wood ducks. We have nesting wood ducks. We have nesting black-crowned night herons, which are a threatened bird in Illinois. We have several. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It worth the effort, absolutely.
Being in a residential neighborhood, you can come up to our natural areas and sometimes the birds will just deafen you. You can drive a block away where everybody's got a manicured lawn and perfect trees.
Silence.
Dead silence.
Silence.
It's incredible.
It really is incredible. It's very, yeah.
We do the park here.
But it really is truly like mind blowing. I mean, like, wow, unbelievable. Okay, and also, why are they important? Native plants. Going back to native plants, one of the things that native plants have, and a lot of the non-native plants don't have, is these very deep root systems. So this is one of my favorite charts where it says Kentucky bluegrass on the left-hand side. Those are the roots of Kentucky bluegrass. It has like no roots. It doesn't hold soil. It doesn't absorb water. It doesn't filter chemicals. It doesn't support the soil health. It doesn't do anything except maybe look nice, and it's a nice place to, have a picnic and things like that. Not that it doesn't have any value, but our native plants have a lot more value, especially when you're talking about things like erosion around wetlands and just soil erosion in general. So that's the lawn. These are native plants. Right. I mean, this is a wonderful photo taken from National Geographic of Indian grass. Those are the roots of Indian grass. Unbelievable. And then then the other ones, switchgrass, little blue stem, as opposed to switchgrass. Want to talk about Canada?
Yeah, so that said, native plants can get out of control, and this is a perfect example of this. Tall Canada goldenrod is a huge problem now. Why? There's all kinds of theories about it. We're part of a 5-year study that's being conducted by Jeff Weiss at Buffalo Grove Prairie. And we've got 8 control centers with 8 different treatments, or actually 7 treatments, and 1 is a control, to see what's the best way to manage this. But it just simply takes over.
It's actually
bullies everybody.
It's either tall goldenrod or Canada goldenrod. There's 2 different subspecies, and the tall goldenrod is the aggressive one. Sometimes they are used interchangeably.
It's a native though.
It is a native.
So what's the balance that keeps it in check? No.
Or what happened, I guess. What happened to it? I mean, I like to think of what happened to it. Why did it become aggressive all of a sudden? And there's different theories out there.
One of Jeff's favorite theories is that this is a very carbon-loving plant, and there's more carbon available.
Right.
Therefore, it just holds it.
It does tend to like disturbed areas or areas that are, more disturbance.
Go to the next slide here before this. Sure. Those grasses you said. Thank you.
Sure. This is a nice little native floating aquatic plant that a lot of people can think is algae, but it's not. It's actually a little tiny plant that floats on the water. And it's only abundant in certain times of the year when, like late summer, and the ducks love it. That's probably why it's called duckweed.
You got rid of those?
No, they're native. They're native.
Oh, okay.
We try to educate people too, because people see the green and they automatically think it's algae, but it's not. It's not. It's supposed to be there. It's only there for about a month out of it's completely naturally occurring little aquatic plant, and there's no need to get rid of it. And in this
Is that June? That comes out?
July, August, usually when it gets really warm. Mhm. And there's that picture of the turtle head. So only the strongest of the bees can open. I love watching them do that too. It's just so fun to have native plants. So back to the monarch. They will only lay their eggs on milkweed plants.
You talking about the lawn on the front,
The lawn in the front are
or the common milkweed?
the common milkweed. Yes, so the common milkweed will actually spread a little bit. It will, you know, and especially if you let it go to seed and it'll go in the little fuzzy seeds. And so we have a little bit of lawn in the front that I mow. And then there's little milkweeds coming up. And every time before I mow, I can't help myself but to look to see if there's caterpillars or eggs or something. And every time before I mow, there's 15 or 20 little eggs or caterpillars on those little milkweeds.
Mm.
Yeah. Do I need the grass? No, I don't need the grass. You're right.
We did raise about 50
Outside an aquarium.
butterflies last year. So we started the greenhouse program, because part of this is gonna be really expensive and prohibitive for restoration organizations. So with our very first grant, we purchased $10,000 worth of native plants and seed, where we get 7,602 plants or something like that. And we looked at each other and said we did it better. And so we started our own greenhouse program. We grow roughly 20 to 30,000 plants every year, over 136 species. And we use those in all of our restoration projects. So this year we're growing plants specific to our last Green Regions grant. So it's fun because the volunteers get to come over on every Wednesday night and transplant. But we end up with all these plants and then we use them as giveaways. We have a program called Grow It, Don't Mow It. So we'll work with residents to naturalize their lawns. So there's lots of opportunities to do stuff with native plants.
This is how it started off.
So this is inside the holding greenhouse on the right. That's our backyard. Midsummer farm. And that's basically it. Any questions?
We're gonna ask them right along.
You've been asking all along. Any more questions?
How do you get to be on your Wednesday volunteer list?
Okay, so you can.
The best way is go to our website, which is phnrc.com. And in the footer, there's a little link that you click, sign up for the workday notices, and then you get them on that.
And I also want to plug Poplar Creek Prairie Stewards, who I've been volunteering with for a really long time, and they are amazing. And they also have work days. They have work days every weekend. It's alternating weekends, Saturdays one week and Sundays the next week. We actually have our work days on alternating days with Poplar Creek, just so I can attend some of their work days. So when we work on a Sunday, they don't work on a Sunday. And so they're really great. They're in Hoffman Estates, that's a really great bunch. And there's actually pamphlets over there by the sign-in sheet for Poplar Creek Prairie Stewards, and with information and website information.
Will this slideshow be available?
Will the slideshow be available? The question is. I think so.
What's that?
The slideshow is going to be available.
Yeah, sure. We can send it to you as a PDF.
We can post it on our website.
Okay.
Okay, it's going to be posted on the website. PHNRC.com, Prospect Heights Prospect Heights Natural Resources Commission. Yes.
Let's say somebody wanted to plant to get rid of grass, like English ivy, what would be a good resource for them to look up whether the plant was invasive?
That's a very good idea. So English ivy would not be a good choice because it's a ground cover. Okay, so a really good source is, I really like the site IllinoisWildflowers.org. It's a really great site. So if you know the name of the plant, it's best to know the botanical name, but even if you don't, if you put in English ivy, Illinois, wildflowers, it'll take you right there and it'll tell you exactly everything about the plant, whether it's native, what region it's native to, or if it's invasive. It even tells you the conditions that it likes, whether it likes sun and shade, how easy it is to grow, and what things can look like it. It's one of my favorite things to check Like if I'm unsure about something or if I want to check up on something or I was reading, this is actually a really great book too. That Dick brought along, but this is really nice. Native Plants of the Midwest, a comprehensive guide of the best 500 species for the garden. Very nice book. And I actually looked through this entire book, and then I came across one of the species. And I was like, oh, I think that's a Southern Illinois species. And I used Illinois wildflowers to find out. So, or to verify that I remember it as a Southern Illinois species, which may or may not be good for us. Climate change, maybe Southern Illinois species slowly, they're coming this way. But I mean, I wouldn't do anything like a species from Florida. Maybe, mid or Southern Illinois is okay.
You guys know about the app, Picture This?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an app, Picture This. It's very good for identification.
Picture This.
In addition to iNaturalist, which is also a really great resource.
Picture This, it's very quick. And
It's free, Picture This. You just point it at the plant and it gives you an identification. It's generally correct. I've been testing it for a long time. It's a very good app. IllinoisWildflowers.org. O-R-G. Oh, sorry, it's info.info. I never do remember. Can you double check that? IllinoisWildflowers.info or .org? Here we go. I got it right here. .info. Just looking at it. .info. I know. That's why right. Who has that? It's .info. It's .info. Right. We were talking about the false mermaid. I have it right on my screen. I use it almost every single day, especially in the summer. It's a really great resource.
So the Indian switchgrass and Holland Big Goose are the best one to replace silver feather and the Harold Forster.
Yes, there's others though. There's other. So the question is to replace non-native showy grasses. I would say that yes, if you want something tall and nice and robust, then Indian grass, switchgrass, Indian grass, those are very nice. They go 6 feet.
They're on sale.
They're on sale
at the Spring Valley plant sale. They're on sale. Big blue stem can get up to 9 feet. The big blue stem. But it's really cute, and it just has it's just a beautiful grass. It can be a little bit aggressive, but it's just, in the garden, it's great. It doesn't get tall until the end of the year too. It doesn't, not like in May. In May, it's this tall, and then it gets bigger, and then the tuft.
For an ornamental, I would say that northern dropseed.
Dropseed is really nice too. It's very short though, so that's
What
yeah.
about that tall?
A mature specimen, yeah, in the fall. But if you're talking about something like the feather grass or the striped grasses that get really tall,
6 feet.
then 6 feet tall, then you want switchgrass or Indian grass, I would say. If you're looking for a 6-footer.
Cordgrass too.
Cordgrass is nice too. Prairie cordgrass. Cordgrass, especially in wetter areas. Another nice one.
It sucks up the water like crazy.
It really soaks up water. So if you have any like waterlogged, open, sunny area, cordgrass, C-O-R-D. Prairie cordgrass, C-O-R-D, also known as ripgut, because known as ripgut. Ripgut is another common name for prairie cordgrass because as the settlers came through with their wagons over the prairies where prairie cordgrass grew, the horses would go over the cordgrass, and the blades are like a serrated knife. Yes, they are. You can cut yourself on cordgrass. So don't run your hands over the blade of a cordgrass like this, but
it's really beautiful.
It's a gorgeous grass, and it was part of our prairie and part of our ecosystem for thousands